Are you ready? Can crush us. It don't really get no better than this, the podcast that you're looking for if you're really heavy into wrestling. Hosted by the Mark. Energy that's so amazing. Gotta keep it entertaining. Rep the Can Crusher Nation. Yeah, you know what's going down in the ring. Lights out when you hit a ding ding. Knock 'em out like boom bada bing. Hold it down, you can crown me the king. Gotta shout out to the Miz and Duke the Dumpster. We choke slamming everybody, power driving, hit 'em with a face buster. Yeah, this the show you need, and it ain't no need for waiting. Mark, hold it down for the Can Crusher Nation. All about wrestling and keep it entertaining. Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast. Time to break 'em, let's go. Yeah, Can Crushers. Yeah, Can Crushers. Let's go.
Hi everyone, this is Ringside Rain and you're listening to Can Crushers Podcast. And now, here is your host, Mark the Mark Martinez.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Can Crushers Wrestling Podcast, the Spotlight Edition. Once again, thanks to Ringside Rain for letting you know that I am Mark the Mark Martinez. Spotlight Edition time, where we dive in to an independent wrestler, invite them on the show, find out the who, the why, the what, the how, and all that cool stuff they got into professional wrestling. And this week's guest is going to be a handful. I'm pretty sure he's not going to like me, and we're going to probably have a problem at the end of the show. I'm thinking. He doesn't like many people, so hopefully I can kind of just like smooth something over. I doubt it. My guest this week is B3 Bam Bam Baker. Unbelievable talent in the ring. Personality-wise, it's something to be desired. We'll leave it at that. So I got him on the line. We're going to chat all about wrestling, what he's got going on, find out what makes him tick, if we're allowed. I don't know. This is going to be a difficult one. But of course, you know what we have to do first. Guys, if you're an independent wrestler, referee, an announcer, associated with wrestling in any way, please reach out. We would love to have you on your show to find out what's going on, how you got involved. We love the stories. Reach out at cancrusher69@gmail.com or any of our socials, which are Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it nowadays. Reach out and say, hey man, I'd like to be on your show. I'd like to tell my story too. We'll get you scheduled up, so make sure you do that. But we have to pay the bills. Collar and elbow, hats, hoodies, tees, all the cool stuff that Al Snow and the hooligans have down at Collar and Elbow. Go and buy it all up. It's awesome. You've heard me talk for years now about the apparel. It's wonderful. Use our promo code, Can Crushers. Capital C in Can, capital C in Crushers. All one word. You'll save 10% off of all the sweet merchandise they have. Speaking of merchandise, if you would like any of the new shirts that you saw from Clash at the Castle, click on our affiliate code down in the show notes there. Yeah, it's a WWE affiliate code. Listen, we're very transparent on this podcast. Sometimes you'll get a discount, sometimes you won't. But you know that you want the new Sami Zayn shirt. You know that you want Drew Quit shirt or whatever you're out there that you're going to buy from WWE shop. Click on that affiliate code. It does help support. Don't forget, I live off of Dubby. Dubby is my new favorite energy drink. It comes in a powder form when you get it at home. Put 2 scoops in your shaker, shake the shit out of it, and it keeps you going. As a garbage man, that's what I live off of in the morning. It rocks and rolls. It does all the cool stuff. There's a ton of different flavors out there. I have 2 that I cannot get away from because they're so damn good. Beach and Peach and Callow Cream. That's where it's at for me. But if you want to check them out, go over to Dubby and check them out. It's easy. Use our promo code there, Can Crushers, all one word, and you'll get 10% off. Don't forget, if you just are looking to sample for a little bit, it is awesome. They'll give you a couple different flavors. They'll give you the shaker for about $20. See what it does for you, and you still get that 10% off as well. No crash, no calories, no carbonation. That's my number one thing, is I'm trying to cut all that out in my life. It's unbelievable. Check it out at W. Don't forget, we have shirts and such over at CrowdMade. So type in CrowdMade When you get into their website, type in Can Crushers, you'll see our hoodies, our tees, our sweatshirts, and all the cool stuff that we have there. Rep our logo as well and let everybody know that you're part of the Can Crusher Nation, as it's all over the world. Just got an order from Toronto, so I'm pretty pumped. If you know the significance of Toronto, it's pretty cool. So, yeah, check them out. Again, where can you listen? Everywhere. We really are. I don't need to say that anymore. Wherever you listen to podcasts, make sure you check us out, like, subscribe, and do all that cool stuff. We are on YouTube now. That's pretty cool. Just the audio version. So if you like having it on your TV or wherever, we're there. It is the audio version, as I said. So I think that's enough. I'm long-winded today. I want to get into this interview with B3, essentially Bam Bam Baker. Find out why, what he does, and hopefully we can become friends after this.
What's up, guys? This is Devlin Macabre, and you're listening to Can Crushers. And always remember, guys, violence is the answer.
Welcome back to Can Crushers, folks. You heard how intimidated I am to have my guest on this week. A little bit of a brute, a little bit of a bruiser. I don't know if we're going to gel. I hope I can get on his good side. 1/3 of the Dark Age, Bam Bam Baker. Bam Bam, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing quite well, sir, and I will say it is quite the honor for you to have me, B3 Bam Bam Baker, here on your podcast tonight.
It is.
You know, and I you had mentioned to me earlier, you got a lot of things going on, and that's fine. But when you're taking up Bam Bam Baker's time, you want to make sure that you do this correctly. You know what I mean? So, I'm here tonight. I'm here to do this with you. Let's get it started.
All right, let's get it started, and thank you for your time. I know you're definitely busier than me, so
absolutely. You keep messaging me, you keep hitting me up, you keep going, hey, I really want you on there, and sometimes I think I just leave him on read. Maybe he'll just get the message, but you never do. But here, you know what? I feel quite a pity at this point for you. So here I am. I'll do it with you.
All right, pity. That's what I get. All right, so let's get into the questions then, because I can't pay you as much as you're worth, so I'm going to have to just rifle through this. Bam Bam, when you were a little Bam Bam, who introduced you to professional wrestling? Mom, Dad, Aunt Sally, Uncle Joe? How'd you find this crazy sport?
So, growing up, I grew up with a family that really, it was just a big family that just loved professional wrestling. I don't even remember, honestly, the first time I was introduced to it. It feels like, I was just, kind of in a way bred into it, with the skills that I have. It makes sense that, I would have had some of the first memories, some of these that are unconscious to me that are here with me now are professional wrestling. My family talked about watching wrestling in the 70s and the 80s. They would watch, NWA in the Mid-South area. They would watch guys like Tojo Yamamoto and Jerry Lawler and all these guys. And, people like my mom who, tried her best, to raise me. She wasn't as great as she could have been. Thanks, Mom. She never liked professional wrestling, and I think that's why we always had that disconnect. Is she didn't like it like the rest of the family, and it is what it is. But I tell you this much, it was something that was in me since the beginning, and it's been in the family since then.
So it's a lineage then in your family, essentially.
Yeah. I wasn't, like some of these, suckers that, let mommy and daddy be in the business and got them in, a lot of times and helped them get started that way. I had to work my way up from it, but I always had, a love and passion for professional wrestling since the earliest times of my life.
When you were growing up and then you started watching it on TV and everything, who are some of your favorites that, as a child, you looked up to?
Absolutely. So one of the main ones I looked up to, I grew up in a time where, wrestling was starting to change. It was starting to get more popular again, late 90s. I think one of the first wrestlers that really caught my attention was Stone Cold Steve Austin. That was one man that, for some reason, in hindsight, I understand why everyone loved him so much. There was a man who, any blue collar man could relate to. Beer drinking, hated his boss, wanted to just kind of kick ass, take names, and didn't put up with no bull crap. At the end, but as a kid, you just see the star power you see someone that's larger than life. And I think that's what we miss a lot. The thing that I saw as a child is this larger than life person who went out there and did what he wanted, did what he's, and he backed up the words that he said. That was something that I, even to this day, I've took that to heart. I don't put up with anyone's bull crap. I don't care about too many people's feelings. If I hurt them, it is what it is. I'm just here to do one thing. And that's what I learned from Stone Cold Steve Austin as a child. Looking at other wrestlers, I watched, men such as Shawn Michaels. I found that to be quite a lot of his things he could do in the ring. I found it quite, mesmerizing, seeing him jumping around, doing things that I had never seen a lot of people do. As I get older, I notice a lot of the charisma that he had. And I think it goes back to that same idea, late 90s Shawn, before he, found his way with God, really didn't care too much about a lot of people.
No
and how
kidding.
They viewed him. Absolutely. And, I think that, as I've gotten older, I still kind of hold on to that same idea that I saw with them, is that don't put up with a lot of people's bull crap, be who you are, and if people, a lot of time in this business, they don't like the way I act, they don't like a lot of the views that I have of myself. I know how great I am, and I show everyone that every time I step into that ring. And if, just like Stone Cold Steve Austin, just like Shawn Michaels, I don't really give a damn. And if you don't like it, tough shit.
But that's actually, listen, I'm going to agree with you, and you could call me a mark for sure, but that's a great way to live life. With what's going on in the world today and everything, it is about being you. And if Bam Bam's, a cocky, brash son of a bitch that's going to get things his way and get them done correctly, that's all right to live it that way.
Absolutely. Every time I step into that ring, I tell, and everybody that watches my stuff, I tell them all I have to do is I need to punch you one good time, and I'll lay your ass flat on that mat. That's all I need. I don't need to flip around like a lot of guys. I don't need to hit you with a move 10 times to make it effective. All it takes is one time. All I need is one good punch. All I need is one good kick. All I need is one good suplex, and you're down for the count. And if the crowd doesn't like that, if I end it the way I feel is necessary, clean and easy, and they're not a problem at all, simple, if they have a problem with that, well, too damn bad. I'm not there to make the people happy. I'm not there to put on a performance for them. I'm there to do two things: one, to get paid, and one, to beat people as easily as possible.
So go back to childhood, and we were talking Stone Cold. Did you get in trouble for flipping a lot of people off when you were younger? I feel you did.
I'm going to tell you the truth here, man. Absolutely. I remember some of the biggest things I got in trouble with school. I'll tell you one. I'll give you a little bit of a Bam Bam experience as a child. I remember riding the school bus, and I didn't understand what it meant, and even if I did, I still would have done it anyway. I remember flipping kids off, and I was like, that's what you do. Stone Cold Steve Austin said it. He says he does it. He didn't give a damn, and I'm gonna do it too. And I remember that school bus driver. My family and her knew each other well, and you know what? I never seen a woman hit a brake so hard on that school bus, send us all flying. And she would yell at me, scream at me, and I would just be like, DTA, kid. That's what I would say right there.
Did you get into the crotch chops then, too?
Damn right, brother.
Okay, I thought so.
Absolutely, and I still do them to this day. If you start pissing me off, all I give you just tell you two words, brother, suck it.
The other one you brought up was HBK. So, the Montreal Screwjob. Who was at fault?
You know who I don't think is at fault?
HBK.
Jim Cornette. He knows what he's talking. If you ever listened to him about that, I would agree with him. However, I think I'm going to be a little nice about the situation. I'm going to be realistic. I think it was all three of them. I think they're all at fault. Everyone, it's this is a situation where people didn't work together. What I say, one of the things I talk about that situation, if, I'm a big Ken Shamrock fan from that time. I'm a big fan of him. He was getting so popular at the time, and I think he was one of the best looking dudes in 1997.
Without a doubt.
I think he should have had more opportunities. I know there was a match, I think 2 or 3 weeks before Montreal Screwjob, and I remember it was Bret Hart and Ken Shamrock, and I wish to this day that Ken Shamrock had just, won that match right then. I wish he could have been able to do it because we could have avoided that whole fiasco. However, you know, if we had avoided that, I think we wouldn't have seen such a boom in wrestling, you know, going into 1998. You know, it is what it is. We can't change the past. And, you know, in a way, at the time, it kind of really pushed professional wrestling to get more notice because of how big of a controversy that was.
Oh, it was the number one thing in the world. And I like that you actually, because you're on the same page as me, poking blame at all three of them. I'm actually one that says there's four because Hebner had to be involved as well.
Absolutely. You know, when, as Brett had said, that he told Brett that he's going to be right down the middle, no worries. He got him. He's going to count it 1, 2, 3, whoever won it. And he knew that was a bunch of bull crap. And I'd be, you know, I think if I remember Brett saying he was pissed with him for years, and I don't blame him at all for that. You know, I think the one you know, it may be controversial, but, you know, while I blame all three for it, I think, and I hate to be like that because I'm not a big fan of them all, but I think, you know, the one that had the less to blame was Vince McMahon. You know, as I will give him this, when you have to make a decision about things, you have to, when your hands are tied, you have to do things. And I love Bret Hart. I love Shawn Michaels as a performer. I love them both as a performer. I loved him growing up, but at the same time, you got to do what you got to do for the business.
You got to protect your company too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Now, you know, I would have done the exact same thing, and if they didn't like it, well, again, you can't trust any of them. You got to do what you got to do.
Exactly.
And I tell you what, if I was in Bret Hart's shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have went and made more money anyway. So screw him anyway.
That's right. They all won, right? They all won.
Absolutely.
So when was?
But I tell you what, I would have, if I was Bret at that moment, I would have took that belt anyway, and I would have walked out that place anyway. I've been done with it. I would have took it anyway.
And showed up next week on Nitro. Yeah. Agreed.
So.
I love it. We're on the same wavelength. When was that aha moment? I know we talk about like your family lineage essentially of growing up around wrestling, and you just knew that you wanted to be in it. But when was that true aha moment that you're like, I'm going to live my dream, that I'm going to go start calling schools, this, that, or the other?
You know, in a way, I always wanted to be a professional wrestler. I don't know if there was an aha moment. Maybe, you know, when I finally decided to start reaching out to, you know, to a school to do it. But I knew quite early on that, you know, not only that I wanted to be a professional, I knew I could be. You know, I remember being outside on the trampoline, and I would take pillows and I would reenact, you know, some of the favorite matches that I ever had, and I'd always beat the pillow because I was never going to let the pillow beat me.
No,
obviously,
come on.
for that.
Yeah.
But you know, you know, and you may want to cut this from the podcast, you know, but, you know, I would do things like I would, you know, I would take a boom box and I'd put it out and I would play my favorite wrestler songs, and I would come out and do the entrance, and I would like stop it and run out and change it to the next song, and I would bring the pillow out, and then I'd do the whole match. You know, I reenacted
full presentation. I love it.
Absolutely, because that's what I do. I know how to perform. I knew it at a small age that I knew how to perform. So you make sure that, you know, and it seems that, you know, I'm going to trust you here, Marty. That's embarrassing. That if you better keep that out of this, or we're going to have a lot of problems. I don't want people thinking that I'm goofy or something.
Okay. All right.
So I'll tell you that. But here's the thing, you know, regardless of, you know, that when I would do this at performing on the trampoline and stuff with, you know, that I knew early on that I wanted to be a professional wrestler. I would reenact. I would do these things, and I would watch the match, and I wanted to do all the moves and everything like that. You know, I started actually training to be a professional wrestler at age 13. I reached out quite early in my adolescence to reach out to a local promotion, Old School Wrestling in Hardin, Kentucky. And I talked to the promoter there, Bad Boy Jamie Phillips, and I begged that man, please let me be a professional wrestler. I know what I am. I know how good I am. You know, I know I'm only 13, but let me show you how good I am. You know, and of course it's like a 13-year-old. What, you know, in hindsight, even you know, B3 here will admit that maybe that wasn't the best decision, but you know, this man saw something in me. You know, and he said, all right, I'm going to put you in there with a man who's trained so many great wrestlers, Brandon Thunderbolt Walker. He's an amazing talent. And if you can't keep up with everyone else that's an adult, well, tough shit. You're gone from the business. You know, and I proved to them as much as I could that I deserved, even at 13 years old, that I needed to be in this business, that I had to be in this business.
13 illegal in many states, but Brendan saw something in you, what you are now. He saw that you are, you know, a champion at 13, and look at you now, right?
Absolutely. You know, it's been so many, and it's hard to believe it, you know, because I'm at 32 years old right now, but it doesn't feel like it. You know, my body's been through this so much at this point that it feels like I'm way, you know, and a lot of times the aches and pains, they add up at times, and I never want to make people think that I can't go anymore or anything like that. I still got a lot in me, but I still can start to feel a lot of those pains and aches from, you know, taking those bumps, taking those falls, taking those suplexes, taking those punches and kicks. They add up. But even then, I still feel like I have a lot to go, and I think I've proved that even at 13 that I could keep, you know, that I needed to be in this business to keep going.
And you have a lot more to go, because 32 is, it's not old whatsoever in wrestling. Ric Flair's still looking for one more match.
Mark, that I'm old?
No, no, I'm old.
Wait, how old are you?
47.
Damn, brother, you old as hell.
I know. I get told by my wife and child every night that I'm old as dirt. So,
you know, to my knowledge, I don't have any children. To my knowledge, but you know, I believe they wouldn't call me old. So, you know, good luck raising. You know, good job raising that child.
You're better than me already.
Go on. Whatever question you have beyond just ask. You know, calling me old.
Okay.
Tell me, what was your next question?
Well, I want to talk a little bit about training. You know, you've had the wherewithal to do everything on the trampoline, but it changes once you get into the ring. Like, how did that change once you got in the ring? And did you, not that you ever, because I have to cover my feet all the time now and my steps because I don't want to get called out, but did you ever say, oh man, this is different from the trampoline?
So, yeah, you know what? You know, B3 can do a lot. I can do more than most men, I think, in this world of professional wrestling. But I'll tell you this much. When I stepped into my first training under Brandon Walker, and you can ask anyone that trained underneath him, the man taught us how to not only wrestle, but to be conditioned to be in professional wrestling. You know, I'll give you, you know, a small sample of one training session we might have. You know, say we get there at 2 p.m. We've set up the ring. It's taken an hour to set up this ring. You're already kind of a little bit, tired from having to lift all these poles and putting this ring together, boards, everything. The man asks you to get stretched because he's going to make you do 100 squats. He's going to make you do 100 push-ups. Next, you're going to do 100 jumping jacks. After that, you're going to do 100 sit-ups. Next, you're going to do lunges around this ring, 16 by 16 foot ring. You're going to do lunges 5 times constantly around that ring. Now you're going to get in this ring and you're going to run these ropes for 10 minutes straight. Then we're going to do what we call the cardio drill. We would get in the line, we'd get it on the ropes, we would jump in, roll around, do a couple of flips to teach us how to protect ourselves with bumps. And you have to do it in a way that you keep that cardio up. You're breathing hard. You're going to feel sick. You start to do this, depending on how many people, the more people in that training session, the more breaks you have between. But you do those about 3 to 5 times in a row. If you're not already passed out and you haven't thrown up already, you take a 5 to 10 minute break. And then we're going to do a thing called bull in the middle, where we get in there and we do Greco-Roman wrestling. You start off with one guy in the middle of the ring and have as many of the trainees that are there, and they're all going to wrestle you Greco-Roman style for about 1 minute to 2 minutes each. And every time you got pinned, you got a chop.
Ooh.
And you do that for every one of them. And you better hope to God you didn't have a man like Trash Can Graham, nearly 400 pounds, going to have to wrestle you in the ring while you've already wrestled 5 or 6 other grown men, as a 13-year-old, I might add. So, after all that, you've been beat up, you've been torn up, you've done all that. Then he goes, hey, let's learn a few wrestling moves before the show starts. And that was your typical training session with Brandon Thunderbolt Walker.
Wow. So I can't imagine you got many chops, though. I can't imagine, because you're the stud. You're the guy. Even at 13, it just, oozes machismo, to steal it from Razor Ramon, out of your body, right?
You know, Mark, you know, we have a lot of problems. You know, you've been bugging me a lot about doing this, but I'll give you this. You keep talking to me like that, you know, I might start to actually appreciate you a little bit. You know, we'll leave it at that. That's all I'll have to say about that.
All right, good. So this is where we find out essentially who Bam Bam is. And I have 3 wrestlers. When I saw some of your clips, these are the 3 that instantly came to mind of who you are to me. 1, your look is a young Lionheart, a Jericho, okay? 2, you know fucking around, essentially. You're Ron Simmons to me. You will beat some ass and you'll take some names. But you got the power. I know Ron was powerful, but he was also, you know, brute. But you have the Jim Neidhart power. Those are the 3 that instantly came to me. How close? Or let's make fun of Mark.
You know what? That first one, I don't know. I'll give you a man about it because you know when I think Lionheart, Chris Jericho, I think of white meat, good guy, boring ass Jericho in WCW. Now, if you had told me Chris Jericho in 1999, 2000, 2001, I'd be more inclined to find respect in that statement, but to associate me with such a boring version of Chris Jericho, I find that quite insulting, Mark. You know that you were nice to me earlier. I was starting to appreciate you, but now you're starting to kind of piss me off.
I put you on the rug and I pull it right out. Yeah,
absolutely. I don't appreciate it too much when you do that. However, you had mentioned people like Ron Simmons, and I think that's an underrated comment. I absolutely love Ron Simmons' work. I absolutely loved his work, especially in APA. I still remember seeing him with the Acolytes, and he would do that amazing spine buster. The one he would just pick you up, and it wasn't even to go down with you. It was to just throw you to the ground, and if you just didn't kick out past that, oh, tough shit. I just kind of just knocked you silly. That was one of those moves that I just, every time, even today when I go and rewatch some of his matches, it still catches me off guard of how just powerful the man was to not even have to use his full body. All he needed was some of his upper body to just slam you to the ground off the air. Absolutely.
Nice.
So I will appreciate it regarding, the strength aspect. Someone that I see is that just as well. I see that as well in myself, the strength and power that I have to not mess around and do things. However, at the end, that Jim Neidhart, Mark, you're starting to wish-washy on me. I think you're, in a way, I think you're making fun of me.
No, Neidhart was just as powerful. He was the power of the Hart Foundation, is what,
Because here's the thing, when you think of the Hart Foundation, you think of so many great characters, and what does your mind go to be the one that didn't do as well in the Hart Foundation? Not to dismiss his abilities, but just didn't do as well as everyone else.
Multi-time tag team champion. I don't know what you're talking about there, Bam Bam.
Everyone else. But here's the thing, I am part 1/3 of the Dark Age. I'm going to assume that what you're trying to say to me is that I'm the Jim Neidhart of the group.
No, not whatsoever. No, I would have said you're the Marty to Sean if I was really going to be a dick.
You, sir.
Yes.
I'm going to give you one chance. I love Marty Jannetty as much as the next man. I love his smile. The man could smile no matter what under certain situation he was under. He loved to party, and I can appreciate that. But to make such a joke about B3, Bam Bam Baker, under the context of a Marty to Sean, not only is it disrespectful to Marty Jannetty himself, but it's disrespectful to B3. You better be glad that you're multiple states away from me right now, because I have no problem if we need to find your address. And, from what you told me in Pennsylvania, I don't mind taking a trip up there from Kentucky and showing you a real Kentucky ass whooping if I need to.
Okay. I apologize.
Do you
again.
Understand?
I do. Let's take a break from wrestling then. Let's take a little bit of a break from wrestling. I'll collect my...
got me pissed off.
I'll collect myself over here. I need collected. So let's talk completely about B3. When B3 isn't wrestling, isn't going to training, and has a day off, which doesn't come far and few. I know you're always busy. But what do you like to do when you're not wrestling?
You say you associate to not wrestle and to train is in my free time, to not be part of my free time, to be separate. And I don't understand, that assumption that you've made of me. When I'm in my free time, that is my training. That is my time to commit to wrestling. If you don't see a difference in between that is my free time, is to train and commit to being one of the best professional wrestlers, Mark, that you have ever seen in this business. I train every single day. I give myself a few hours to rest, but I'm in that gym 5 a.m. every day. I'm taking what I need to do to be one of the best. And if some people in their free time, if they can't do things like that, they can't commit like that, they don't need to be a professional wrestler, because I show everyone every single day that I train, I commit, I put my body through so much to prove to people like you and others that think I can't ever do this. I proved it when I was 13 years old training with grown men under Brandon Thunderbolt Walker. I've proved it multiple times in the ring, wrestling for multiple promotions. I'm a former NWA Southern Tag Team Champion, for God's sake. I am professional wrestling. My life is professional wrestling. That is what I do in my free time.
That's the difference between a professional like you, who is essentially a gold standard for professional wrestling, and a mark, because I was aptly named by my mom. I'm a mark. I sit behind a keyboard and I talk to wrestlers that I wish I wanted to be. B3.
Absolutely. And then, and I'll let you know this, that I do have merchandise for sale then, Mark. So you just let me know when you might be interested in one of those, if you can afford it. Beyond just paying for me for this podcast.
We'll give all those links out near the end of the show, so everybody can jump on board. So I'm sure they will. All right, let's get to some random questions, and we have a random question from a guest from before.
This is the Indiana werewolf, Dustin Wolf, and my question is: if you had one horror movie to star in, with what actor, with what type of name, what would it be?
That's actually a pretty good question there. Indiana werewolf. You can't see the quotations in my fingers right now, but I'll play game with you. If I was in a horror movie, I think I'd want to be, it'd be like, a psychological horror, because that's what I am. It's like some kind of psychological horror on my opponents. They don't understand what to do with me, what they can make sense of me, and I like to keep it like that in the ring. So I think that's the kind of horror movie I'd like to be in. But the one actor I think would be the one that I would love to be in, either he's the killer or preferably, I as B3 think I should be the killer, because I'm not going to let anyone on set convince me that I'm the one that's being hunted. Let's be real about that. So what I'll tell you what, the one person I want to be the hunt down is Jim Varney. That's who I want. Because I tell you what, that goofy man, whenever I know he's not with us anymore, but every time I saw Ernest's face, it made me just want to punch a hole in a wall. The man never brought me joy. He brought kids joy, and I hate kids. And I don't like that one bit. So tell you what, that's the man that I would want to hunt in a horror movie, just for the fun fact that it'd be fun to kill Ernest.
Can I walk on the red carpet that day and just support you killing Ernest? Because I'm all in for that. I really am.
Mark, you're really starting to make me just like you a little bit more. I'll give you that. I think we're understanding of that.
I could see you as a Silence of the Lambs killer, though, too. Killing Ernest that way. You're very mental. You really are.
Are you calling me Buffalo Bob?
No,
Bill,
I just meant that you could get in. You're getting in my brain every 5 seconds. So yes.
You better be calling me Hannibal Lecter, because I ain't gonna be having you under any well under my house. I can tell you that much.
No, I don't want
I
that
do not
either.
want to wear your skin, Mark. I know that you think it would be good for me to have your skin and to wear it, but that's not. No, I know that's your fantasy. I get it. That's what you're into. You know, you do you. But I don't want you under my house hidden. I'll tell you that much.
I don't want to be under your house. Let's move on. Let's move on. All right. If you die in the next couple days, what do you want to come back as?
You're expecting Bam Bam Baker to pass away in the next few days? You think that was something that would happen?
No.
You think it would happen?
The randomizer was rough on you. Let me just tell you that.
Right. Why do you think I would be dead in a few days? Give me. What do you think? Before I answer, Mark, let me finish. If you think, I'll answer your question, but I want to hear your opinion, Mark. How do you think Bam Bam Baker, if he were to mysteriously die, how do you think it would happen in the next few days?
Shoot.
You're holding a man's life potentially in the palm of your hand, the proverbial hand that you've placed in front of me. What would you do with Bam Bam Baker's life?
Shoot, I can't, because I'm a firm believer in signs and everything, and I shouldn't have ever read you this question, honestly. So I can't.
Right, because what you would have that blood on your hands, right? Right. What if you said I walked in and got hit by a bus and I walked right out there and did it right now? How would you feel, Mark?
Like a piece of trash that I am.
Yeah, and that's why when you ask a question like that, that's how you should feel. Because I'll tell you this Mark, that if I had that question about you, I'd be very easy. You would get hit by a bus. That's what you sound like you would do. You would easily not look both ways across the road. And I feel pity for you, Mark. However, I would like to say that if I mysteriously vanished off the face of the earth that I am on, the graciousness that I am upon this world, I would argue that to come back as a Siberian snow leopard would be one of the greatest, most amazing feats that could ever be put on God's green earth. Wouldn't you agree, Mark?
I agree. That is magical.
Absolutely. It would be. It would be. So there you go, Mark. Now, when you know to ask these stupid questions, you're going to get amazing answers, even though I don't really care too much about you at this moment. I'm willing. Bam Bam Baker is willing to make it a nice, enjoyable experience for you, even if you wished death upon me.
I don't wish death upon anybody, so please. What's your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure?
As in food. Food.
Food.
Is it?
Well,
yeah.
Before we get to food, I'll give you another guilty pleasure. I like making kids cry, bro. That's what I love doing. To see a kid, tears running down their face swelling, redness from the tears and anxiety. It warms my heart just a little bit to know that they're in pain. I think personally, a guilty pleasure of mine is like, I would love to go to Congress and sit in front of Congress and to argue that we should be allowed to trip kids in restaurants. I think that should be allowed. However, guilty food wise,
with full plates of food, we should trip them.
Did I ask for your opinion, Mark?
No, I'm sorry.
I was getting to a bit, yeah. Because, you better be glad that your kid that you're not raising quite right, to be honest, as I mentioned earlier. You better be glad that I'm not here to trip them. So let me get back to the question that you so nicely asked, and I'm attempting, Mark, to answer. Guilty pleasure-wise regarding food. I eat a pretty strict diet. 5 eggs in the morning, cup of rice, get enough carbs and protein in me to start the day. 2 scoops of protein powder every day. Creatine, protein, lean meats, chicken. I eat a pretty consistent, healthy diet, as one of a professional status. However, the one guilty pleasure of mine is one that I cannot have due to my own secret medical conditions. I don't know. You're asking me. You're thinking on the inside, Mark. I want to know what that is. You want to get that on your podcast to get the fans to really know about me, but you're not going to get that. However, one food that I really enjoy that I cannot have, and it beats me up every day, is donuts.
Oh, they're
Jesus
not good
Christ.
for a body like you. No.
Not only that, but because of, some other medical conditions that my terrible parents passed on to me. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I can't have donuts. Absolutely, not only not nutritious at all, not any health reasons for a body of mine stature, but I cannot also have that in my body due to conditions. But damn, are they not the most tasty, amazingly beautiful tasting things in the world? And I hate the world that I live in, that I cannot have that and have the body that I have. Absolutely terrible. That is the guilty pleasure of mine, is blueberry jelly-filled donuts.
Okay. Blueberry jelly filled. That's very specific for not being able to eat donuts. But okay.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you've gotten behind the curtain? Because you've been behind the curtain with a lot of legends.
Absolutely. One of the things, it wasn't always just so much of like specifically one thing that I learned in this business. It's a multitude of things. I learned so much beyond just, I had already started out doing great in this business, but no one, even I will admit, no one is, and especially not me. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. One thing I learned, was through people like Tracy Smothers, who would, I'd meet backstage, and he was an amazing, piece of talent that would watch everyone matches, and he would study them. He didn't have to. He's done a lot in this business, been to, pretty much every major promotion to my knowledge that there has been. He's been a part of it. And when I would be backstage with him, he would watch matches, everyone's matches, didn't matter whose it was, and he would, give advice on things of how you could have better cinched in a certain move, or you could have, laid it in a certain way, or you didn't need to do a lot of this different stuff to kind of get across what you need to as a professional wrestler. And I took a lot of that from what he told me to heart. I remember it was right before COVID, and I had a match. I believe it was a triple threat it was Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and it was, pretty soon before he had passed away, a couple months before. And I remember him watching my match, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him after that match, but I remember him telling others who told through me that he absolutely loved my match. He'd seen me grow, and he absolutely loved it, and it meant a lot to see, take the words that he had told me prior, and to really, over time, to really implement them in my matches, and to hear that, before he had passed, that he, really enjoyed my work. That was something that for Bam Bam Baker was very appreciative, to learn a lot from him. Regarding other things, one of the main things I took from professional wrestling as well is to, you want to get through your matches as quick as possible. There's no reason to dilly-daddle. The more you dilly-daddle in your match, the more stamina you lose, the less strength you have. You want to get through your match as soon as possible. And for the longest time, if you watch my earlier matches, I wasted, and I realized rewatching it, I wasted a lot of physical stamina, a lot of energy trying to be, unique and do a lot of things. And I realized I was doing so much and wasting so much energy, and part of me, could, a little bit at a time could make the crowd, pipe up and stuff. But, as I've gotten older, I've realized it's not about that. It's about beating your opponent, doing what you need to do, saving your energy. You don't know what your opponent has. A man who has a lot of stamina, you want to make sure that you can go the time with him if needed. Don't waste your stamina. Keep your energy, consumption low. Have your strength ready for when you need to catch him off guard. For someone who's a powerhouse, you need to expel what you need to, if you need to catch him off guard early, or if you need to reserve your stamina to wait for him to, lose what he has, the little bit of stamina that he has, wasting down, wearing him down, holds, things like that. That's what I was taught as I've gotten older and older, to figure out how to be the most competent and overall best professional wrestler you can see in a match. And like I mentioned before, Mark, I don't really care if the fans like that. That's not what I'm there to do. A lot of guys you see them, they're there to perform for them. I'm not there to perform for the fans. I'm there to perform for myself. I know what I am. I don't have anything to prove to them. And I've learned so much from having that mentality.
Yeah, it's about collecting gold and getting a bigger paycheck from your matches. That's what professional wrestling is.
And I think we forget, it's never really brought up anymore, but when you win your match, you get the winner's purse. That's something we forget a lot about with, modern wrestling. And I don't think a lot of you fans really bring that up, is that, if you lose, you get paid, but you don't get paid as much as when you win. There's reason to win, and that's to get paid. That's why we're in this business, not only to show how strong and amazing we are, it's to show that we are the best, and to be the best is to win and to get paid. It's to be the best, but to be smart is to get paid to do it.
Yeah, you hear a lot of people on podcasts talk about a hot dog and a handshake. That's because they're not winning, right, B3?
Absolutely. They come in there and they lose their match, or, not going to lie, some promoters, it is what it is. They find a way to cheapskate around a lot of that. When B3 comes in, that you're getting a quality product. You're getting someone who knows what they're doing, that's going to, regardless if the fans really like it or not, you're going to get a good, hard-hitting match. A man that knows how to get business done. And if you want that, if you want, other talent that you can give a hot dog and a handshake to, go ahead. If that's what you want, the B3 is more than welcome to sit at home and wait for the next person that knows what talent is, what they see, and what they're going to get if they put their money into it.
B3, this is kind of the toughest question that I ask on podcasts, and I really like hearing everybody's answers. Professional wrestling still has, a stigma around it, or this, that, or the other. If you could change one thing to make wrestling like everybody just wants in on wrestling, and I know you don't care about the fans to get that, but just to popularize it more, what would you change or get rid of in professional wrestling?
I think the one thing that professional wrestling is missing is that it feels like a fight. If you ever listen to someone like Jim Cornette, he's talked about professional wrestling in a way of the idea, and I forget the exact analogy he used, but when you're driving down the street and you see two dudes going at it, like they're arguing, they turn to fist fighting, and one's bigger than the other, you instinctively want to see the little guy kind of overcome the bigger guy. You want to see him come back to fight him and beat him up and overcome those odds. When I see professional wrestling now, I see dudes that are trying so hard to do so much to look like gymnastics. They're flipping around. They're doing all these different crazy maneuvers to get the crowd to erupt in this kind of like, who's got the bigger flippy move? And what I think professional wrestling is missing now is that it doesn't feel like they're fighting. They don't feel like they have a reason to fight. They don't feel like people that you would meet on the street, that even though they may be, the person that you might want to see on the street, but they still feel larger than life. That two dudes who have a story, there's a reason they're fighting. They have drama. There's reason for it. And you want to see one of them succeed, and you want to see one of them, get their ass kicked. I think that's human nature in a lot of ways. It goes back to the beginning of time. You see people argue, you're going to side with one of them, and you want to see the drama that unfolds, before the fight, during the fight, after the fight. And I feel like when I watch professional wrestling now, I don't feel like it's a fight. I feel like I'm watching something at the Olympics where I just need to clap. I don't feel like guys care. Or
yes, 100%. And there's names that I could just list that I'm not going to. But yeah, Ricochet.
And I think, and if you watch Bam Bam Baker wrestle, if you watch him in the ring anytime, I fight my opponents. I do everything I can, regardless if the fans like it or not. I get into it, and and with one goal in mind, and that is to defeat my opponent, make them tap, or pin them to a 3. And I will do everything that I absolutely can, regardless if the ref likes it, regardless if the promoter backstage likes it, whether the fans in the audience likes it. I'm there to do one thing, and that is to fight. And I'm going to always do the absolute best I can to beat whoever steps into that ring with bam, bam, big.
How much of today's product do you watch? And can you watch it for enjoyment, or is it always tape study?
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't watch a lot of modern professional wrestling for a lot of the reasons that I mentioned earlier. You know, if you want to know how long ago that I was consistently watching, say, every Monday night or something like that, do you remember when I believe it was Bryan Danielson was the hemp champion?
Yep.
How long ago was that?
Years or days or minutes or but it's been a while. It's been a while.
I will say that's when the last time I was consistently watching modern professional wrestling. I'll tune in every once in a while. I'll give it a little bit of watch, but I'll tell you this much: it doesn't take me long before I'm like, this isn't the same professional wrestling that not only I grew up with, but what I was trained in. And you know, it's very hard to find that for me, B3, a lot. So I always try to set an example when I step into the ring that the style of professional wrestling that I am, I feel like can still be here. I feel like it still deserves to be here. And I'm going to represent that as much as I possibly can.
Jim Crockett, NWA, all of that when I was a child, that will always be my number one before any other wrestling, because that's when it was, you know, to me, that's when it was, right?
Right. And it's sad, you know, in the world of professional wrestling, when you hear so many people that, you know, believe, you know, even more now today that they believe, oh, it's all fake or whatever. And I say, you know, but then they'll say, you know, that wrestling, as they would say, as a child, you know, I saw NWA, Ric Flair, all them, that was real wrestling. And, you know, I try to explain to them, wrestling's still, you know, we're still beating the crap out of each other. We're still hurting each other. We're still trying to do the best that we can to overcome each other. But I still try to show them that it is. I want them to continue to know that it is. And I try with my style to show them that still old school wrestling style, that it isn't perceived to be choreographed. It's real.
It's a fight. It's a fight to a death. Yes.
Absolutely. Watch a man like Terry Funk and Jerry Lawler go at it in Mid-South or something like that, and watch them try to gouge each other's eyes out.
Stan Hansen, just literally trying to rip your head off. Yes.
Absolutely.
B3, before I let you go, we got a couple more questions, and then I know because my money is definitely running out. Talk about some of your best achievements thus far. Champion, this, that, or the other, but what one do you hold near and dear to your heart?
Absolutely. So one of the biggest accomplishments I've ever had is being, you know, I'm a 2-time NWA Southern Tag Team Champion. I won those with a good friend of mine at the time, Stevie King. We were a tag team called the Royal Pains, a really wonderful professional wrestler, you know. And when I first, obviously, I was asked to, paid more to be in that tag division, and I didn't like the idea of tagging at the time. You know, this is the first time I've really tagged with anyone, and I didn't find that appreciative at all, you know. But I saw, talking to Stevie, you know, you start riding up and down the road together, you start, you know, doing a lot of things together. I started to find an appreciation for him as well, and he became like a brother to me, and it led us to being NWA Southern Tag Team Champions. And I always will hold that. You know, I don't care a lot about a lot of people, but that's something that to me holds a lot of dearness to my heart. Recently, you know, one of the accomplishments I've had of late was for Inhumane Championship Wrestling in Corning, Arkansas. You know, they had their first ever showing last year in December, and I was placed into the main event. It was me versus Brian Idol for the Inhumane Heavyweight Championship. The first time it would be defended, it'd be whoever won it was the first time champion for that company, you know. And at the end of the night, I was victorious over Brian Idol. and I became the first ever Inhumane Heavyweight Champion. That, to me, means a lot for myself to be the first champion somewhere. I've been multiple champions, like I said, and I love being, a former NWA Southern Tag Team Champion as well, especially with Stevie King, but to be the first time heavyweight champion, recently defeating someone like Brian Otto was a great accomplishment as well. And I, going forward, there's other plans that haven't been, announced yet, but you will be soon hearing about that for B3, a big announcement coming soon, potentially. So I would ask people to keep up with that when they hear that news. But recently, and going into the future beyond that, me and my brothers, Trash Can Graham and the Ronin Jeremy Travis, all trained under Brandon Thunderbolt Walker, have come together to start our new message for the world of professional wrestling. Do you know of this, Mark? The Dark Age.
The Dark Age.
Absolutely. What have so far? What do you know of the Dark Age?
Not a lot, because I don't do a lot of homework, because I like all the stories right from the performers.
That's the thing, Mark. I would ask that even though you paid me to come on this podcast and you begged me so much, you wouldn't have asked about the Dark Age. But here,
we were getting there. It was my next question.
I bet it was. Mark. Okay. But you know what? I'll go ahead and talk to you about that. What was your question about it? I'll allow it this time.
Explain the Dark Age for those who have not followed or understand what's going on. That's exactly.
I believe that's for you. It's for you, Mark, because I had already mentioned it, and you just want to act like you don't want to admit that you make mistakes and you're quite ignorant at times. That's what it is, Mark. Right.
Right.
Absolutely. So let me tell you something, brother. The Dark Age, me, B3, Bam Bam Baker, TKG, Trash Can Graham, and the Ronin Jeremy Travis, we've gotten quite tired of the world of professional wrestling the way it is now. Just as I mentioned earlier, this choreographed, this feeling if it ain't a fight, it needs to be wiped. It needs this world of professional wrestling needs to be injected with a dose of poison, in a way. This idea that it's time to change things. It's time to wipe the slate clean and bring back a new age to the world of professional wrestling, a dark age to professional wrestling, one where we do nothing but we fight. We like the enjoyment of bringing everyone down to destroy each and every professional wrestler that decides to step into the ring with us. Our goal is nothing more than to see the destruction and burning of all promotions we step into. We want to build this world of professional wrestling into a new one, a new age where wrestlers can survive and fight and show how great they are. And I would say this to you, Mark. I'll end you on this. Welcome to the Dark Age.
Yeah, there it is. This is your time. Give us your time, one more second, to give everybody your socials, where you're going to be, where the Dark Age is taking over. And, of course, you said you wanted to sell some merch as well.
Absolutely. So you can find me right now. My only social I have at the moment is on Facebook. You can find me at facebook.com/RealBamBamBaker. If you're interested in merchandise, you can hit me up sometime through that page and we'll work something out regarding getting that to you. Regarding things of upcoming appearances, June 15th, I believe that's, the way you have your podcast, you don't do it live. I don't understand why you don't. However, there will be a show that potentially will air before this. June 15th, I will be in Corning, Arkansas for that. Going past that, I will be down in Huntington, Tennessee for Swag Wrestling June 22nd. I'll be there with my brother, Trash Can Graham, as part of the Dark Age. Past that, you'll see me July 6th, Evansville, Indiana for Refocus Wrestling. On July 12th in Paragould, Arkansas, you can catch me at the Haya Nation, in quotations, Paranormal Horror Show. It's a convention show that's going to be happening on both July 12th and 13th in Paragould, Arkansas. You can catch me there performing for that horror convention. And then on July 18th, B3 will be in Paris, Tennessee for Nonstop Wrestling Alliance.
Guys, make sure you follow B3. He's amazing at social media. He really, like, as a promoter, I'm going to pull the wall down for a second. You want him on your card, one, for the matches that he does, but two, he promotes everybody's stuff better than I've seen in a long time. So, pat on the back there, B3.
You tell me, what do you think that I do? So I want you to, fluff my ego. I'm going to admit, I would love to hear a fluffing of the ego. What do I do to tell these promoters, what do I do to really sell your show?
You're always putting the poster out there. You're always cutting a promo about whatever's going on. You're double posting everything. Like, more so than some of the promoters are even posting. Like, you're putting asses in seats, as Ricky Morton would say.
Absolutely, and Ricky Morton would be right, and B3 is absolutely always right. Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. You know what? By the end of this podcast, I think we might have a good little bond here. Well, I still think you're a terrible parent.
I am. You can ask him. He'll tell you the same thing. So thank you.
I bet he would.
Well, thank you for gracing me with your presence tonight.
Absolutely, Mark. It was a pleasure on your being for me to be here.
This is Foreman Red James, and you're listening to Mark, the piece of shit garbage man on Can Crushers.
Ladies and gentlemen, my guest, Bam Bam Baker, B3, if you know him and you're friends with him. So I'll probably never be calling him B3 again because I don't think we became friends. Maybe some respect. I don't know. What's more, you get the respect or you're friends? Because you can have friends with respect. You can have respect by itself. You can have friends by itself. Maybe I'm not on any level. I don't know. He just graced me with his presence. That's probably the best thing to do. He graced me with his presence. I do love the advice. You heard in the podcast from Tracy Smothers, though. That's been with me now over the last hour or so that I've been sitting how I'm going to do the closing in the outro and all that. I really thought about that. If you know, you know. So that's great. Unbelievable talent in the ring. He's got a lot to say, but did get a little bit more information. He was talking about an event on July 12th. Okay? July 12th. If you're in and around, make sure you pay attention. July 12th in Paragould, Arkansas. The show is advertised as Sacred City Presents Hyomania. Okay? He will be, Bam Bam Baker will be taking on EC3 for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. Yeah, so if you're in and around Paragould, Arkansas, get your damn tickets and watch one hell of a show. I have that also pinned in the show notes this week. The URL, essentially. If you want to go to the website and buy the tickets, it is pinned in the show notes. Make sure you click on that show note. Buy your tickets there for Sacred City Presents Hyomania, where you get Bam Bam Baker against EC3 for the NWA Heavyweight Championship. Unbelievable. Listen, I will be the one extending the olive branch here as we close out the show. I wish nothing but the best for Bam Bam Baker in this heavyweight championship match against the NWA Heavyweight Champion EC3. Unbelievable. Rightfully deserved, rightfully earned. Watch out, Bam Bam Baker is coming. Remember, guys, just because you're trash, it doesn't mean you can't do great things. It's called the garbage can, not a garbage cannot. Make sure you tell your loved ones you love them, because you never know.